Hi, welcome back to This Could Be a Podcast. You're back with Jen and Peter, and we have a special guest, my sister, Bethany Hobson.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
What's your name? Where are you from?
Yeah. Well,
You just told him her name.
yeah.
Where are you from?
Same place as you, Jen.
Where are you from?
Same place as you. Like England, Canada, all over the place, a little bit in between, and then now here.
She's my older sister. I've mentioned her in a few podcast episodes.
I'm quite famous now.
She's been referenced for sure.
She
yeah,
has.
Definitely.
She's especially been referenced in the Halloween episode where you experienced my ghost.
Oh, I did, yeah. With the lipstick flying off the desk.
Yeah.
That really freaked me out.
Yeah, I've heard that you've had an update for that.
I've got an update. Did you like that segue, by the way?
Yeah,
It was
It
beautiful.
I'd-
Brilliant.
I'd
It's
thought
almost
about
like
that in the
we scripted
shower. So essentially, for those who know me, I don't cook, can't be bothered cooking, but every once in a while I'll get the desire to cook, and so I needed to do dishes at this point. So I was doing my dishes and I was just vibing, and I have a stack of Tupperware which just came with the room, and I've never used any of them, and I'd never touched them. I never really go in that area because that's where all the sauces and stuff are, which I don't use once again.
It's like uncharted territory. Like, what the fuck is
Literally.
that? Like, what the fuck?
And so I was doing my dishes, and then it literally flew off and hit me in the shoulder. And it's quite a distance as well.
The whole Tupperware stack, or just like one?
They like rolled, and then one like hit me in the shoulder and then fell to the ground.
Bitch, I'm still here, motherfucker. I ain't gone yet, bitch.
They were
That's
like,
so
you
weird.
it would like, cause the distance is probably like a meter away.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. It would just like, I don't know, the house moved, it budged or something, then it just slipped down. It like flew up, it hit me in the shoulder, like it's a good distance away.
It honestly doesn't surprise me, because when I saw the lipstick last time, it genuinely flew like with force across the desk onto the like chair,
Yeah.
like a good distance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not surprised, and you won't catch me at your house anytime soon, to be honest.
Dude, I'm still skeptical here, man. I think that, like...
How the fuck would you explain that?
Dude, fucking wind draft or some shit, bro.
In the kitchen.
Earthquakes, there's all kinds of fucking
Have you
earthquakes here.
seen my kitchen?
Yeah.
There's no window.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be... There doesn't have to be a window in the kitchen for there to be a draft that comes and pushes something.
But where did the
I mean,
draft come from? The
Changes in
windows were shut.
pressure. I don't know, man.
No.
I mean, the only thing that I could think of that could explain it is like the fracking. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the fracking.
Yeah,
Fracking.
precisely.
Yeah.
But I feel that, and it's not that bad. It doesn't
Yeah,
ever
but-
push things off.
But if it just gets a little bit unstable and it wasn't fully stable to begin with, it might roll.
But I never touched them.
Yeah, it probably had plenty of dust to, help keep them in
It's
place.
It's
You
like
know,
glue, dude. Like
Yeah.
cement.
It's weighted.
probably requires some force.
Yeah, so
Oh, that's weird.
that's my ghost update. Scared the shit out of me. Literally, as soon as it happened, I got my phone and I was like, Peter, I have an update for the ghost.
Yeah. Dude, that ghost has been making an entry already in 2021, dude.
Yeah, and in your house too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
So funny.
She back, dude.
To be
Shit.
fair, I hope she kind of makes more appearances in 2021, liven up the year a bit. Just make it interesting.
I scared the shit out of myself today as well, because I had a nap and then I had sleep paralysis and I managed to go back to sleep, and when you half wake up and you kind of open your eyes and then roll over, when I opened my eyes I had like a pile of clothes on my couch, and it scared the shit out of me, thinking
dude.
that someone was just sat in my chair like staring at me. I was like,
I have that all the time in my room because Nicole sent me this like thing of flowers, and I put it in a vase kind of thing with water, and I put it by the window. And usually what I do is I move it out the way so I can close the curtain, but sometimes I'm fucking lazy and I just leave it on like the windowsill.
Yeah.
And yeah, last night I was going to sleep, whatever, and I turned over and I looked out and it was like something in the window. I was like, what the fuck is that, dude?
Ew.
And yeah, I hate those like brief moments when you're like half asleep and you get like that fucking like
your heart is,
like goes straight to your belly and you're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, what the hell is that,
Yeah.
dude? Shit.
But so this week we're going to be talking about moving and making friends, the experience of being an international, since we all live in the Netherlands, as we've mentioned before. And Beth and we've lived together a few times, haven't we?
Yeah, a couple times.
You could say that.
So, I mean, tell us, how do you feel about moving? Do you like change? Do you hate it, love it?
Well, okay, to be honest, we've moved so many times, I feel like we're kind of experts at this point, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, the packing of the house could be done, like, down to a routine at this moment. But, I mean, I do like a change. I have this, like, really bad thing where after, like, about 3-4 years, I'm, like, itching for a change. I get bored.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, doing my degree in one city is, like, it's 4 years, like, minimum. And it's, like... I feel like I'm trapped here a bit because
really?
Yeah.
Is it like already tough for you?
It was tough for me after like end of year 1 because I was here a year before that doing a different degree. So I'd say for 2 years and I was like, I'm ready to go. I was like looking at other cities. I was like fantasizing my like whole other life where I can just move to.
You actually did as well. Like I remember she was like, I just want to get away from this fucking city. And I was like, I quite like it here. It doesn't help that this city's quite small as well. Like there's nothing, there's not much to do other than study.
Yeah, once you've seen everything, I mean, like you could probably see, I feel like all the notable things in Groningen in like 2 days.
In a day,
less than that.
No, I mean like including like going to like the nightlife, which is I guess non-existent now.
Yeah.
I mean like you might want to spread it out like over 2 days, but easily. Oh my
I
gosh,
had a friend come to visit from Canada, and she stayed for a few days, and it was hard to find things for her to see. And unfortunately, a lot of the time she was here, I was like in school and I couldn't miss it. And then I actually got sick as well, so I couldn't show her where the things were. So I was like, yeah, just go out and explore. And there was nothing much to explore. It was really quite sad.
Yeah, because the center of the city is surrounded by like canals. It's literally the center, and that basically has all the main attractions. It has the Forum, it has Martini Tower, it has the Great Mart, the Fizmart, the fucking, what else is there?
The Noorderpantsoen.
Well, that's outside the city centre by one canal.
It's
like by one canal, sorry.
And also it's literally a 10-minute walk. Like it's nothing's less than. Nothing's far from anything. So I think it's quite hard being international in the city, but because of how small it is. But it's also so easy in that way. Because it means that all of your friends live close by and everything that you need to do is really close.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's, I think for most internationals who've never been to the Netherlands before, it's a real culture shock, really, just like the way things work here, how everything, like, where I used to live, like, you could not go somewhere close by easily. Like, you needed to take a car.
Yeah.
But here it's like literally everything you could possibly want or need, and all of your friends are all literally within, for the most part, a 20-minute walking distance.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Exactly.
It's super weird. And as you said, it's kind of, on one hand, it's kind of not a great thing because you can see everything so fast, and it really does feel like a very small place very quickly.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, well, it also makes it easier to adapt to everything, I feel like, because everything is so accessible.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good student city, like, obviously pre-COVID, when you could, like, go out and stuff, because you could just, like, hop around from, like, bars to people's houses to, like, everything else, like, without really having to worry about the transportation in between and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really good student city, but I guess now I just feel like I'm getting older and I want more fun things like concerts and...
You're 24.
Yeah, but, like, I'm getting a bit older where it's like I don't want to be out till 5 a.m. getting drunk anymore because I don't rebound the same. Like, I'm in bed.
Well, you're in for a treat tonight.
I know. I prepared.
Did we talk about that last week? I think we mentioned it last week, just like how... Was it last week or was it another time?
We've probably mentioned it a couple of times, but after we finish recording, we, like, drink more and schmuck a little schmucky.
Smoke a wee bit.
A little bit of the old devil's lettuce, if you know what I'm saying.
Back in the day, like when I was younger, I mean, I would recover... Like, I would have a really rough morning, and then after a couple hours, I'd be fine. Nowadays, my hangovers I've literally had it last up to 2 days, which is bad.
Yeah.
Last weekend for me, it was Friday night. I got really drunk with my friend, and I was literally in bed all Saturday and most of Sunday. It wasn't until about 7 p.m. on Sunday that I actually got up and cleaned up the mess that I had made from the Friday night. Like, I was just sort of laid in my bed staring at it all, and I couldn't move and fix it because I was just bedridden.
That is one thing about Groningen, especially for internationals. Like, okay, it doesn't really apply that much nowadays, but it really did have a very easy to get into nightlife. Like it's super... I think it's like a really good place to have like your first experiences with like the nightlife and going out and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah.
I think so. When we lived in Canada, I literally turned 18 and I was 18 for a month, and then we moved to the States where the drinking age is 21. So I went out for only a month in Canada.
Yeah.
So I don't have much experience with the nightlife there, but how would you say it's different?
So personally, when I was in Canada, it was you had to take a taxi to where you were. I mean, particularly where we lived, there were like 2 streets that kind of had the bars on it. One in particular was way more popular than the others, and you had to take an Uber there and an Uber home. So that was like a whole nother task on itself, especially when you're being like so drunk that you like can't coordinate like with your friends what's happening, and you have to like coordinate.
It's a whole nother cost.
It's a whole nother cost, a whole nother logistical thing of the night. Like it's quite a pain. But like bouncing between bars was okay, but it was the same kind of every night, because you would have to go to the street to get to go to the bars, and you couldn't just pop home to a friend's house or pop to a house party without really planning for it, because again, the logistical stuff. And also it was cold in the winter in Canada. It was cold. Like I'd be walking down the street in heels at the time. I don't know why I wore heels, but heels and a dress and a skirt, and my legs would be frozen blue.
That's the thing actually as well, like the dressing up is so different here, because in England and in Canada you dress up to go out. Like girls are wearing heels and dresses, and guys are wearing like a nice shirt and jeans.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And like the girls are like fully done, and it's incredible.
Hair,
and then
makeup.
Here, like you could go out in leggings here and you'd be sound.
Yeah, there's no one turning you away for how you look. Like I remember I helped a friend get home who lived on the bar street one night, and I was in sweatpants ready to go to bed, and I helped her get home because she'd hurt her ankle. And my friend said, do you want to stop in for one drink? And I went in sweatpants for one drink, and it was the shame of my night, but I couldn't say no. So yeah, tested. I have been to a bar here in sweatpants, no problem.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think the nightlife here is super casual. It's like, and it's so interesting, like thinking about having to order like a taxi or something and worrying like, oh dude, she's so drunk, like how is she gonna get home or whatever, or like, oh man, he like puked like 5 times, what are we gonna do? We have to call an Uber, I guess, whatever. Here it's just kind of like, oh whatever, we'll just walk him home. Or, like, you know, whatever, or cycle, whatever. Yeah,
like it's like, I know we've had a couple times, I think on my birthday in first year, when our friend Karina got really drunk, and then Ben had to take her home and then came back out, and that's just like what you do. Like we literally arrived at a club after pre-drinks, and then we were there all of 10 minutes, and then she was throwing up in the bathroom. She was like, guys, I think we have to go.
For this? I must
yeah,
have
you
been.
were, because it was after the no, maybe you went. It was when we went to Fleur's house.
Oh, I was there, yeah. I was gonna say if it was the one at Fleur's house, a friend of ours.
Yeah,
then I have been there.
Yeah, but also like I've mentioned this on the drinking episode, definitely not alcoholics, where I sometimes when I'm out, I'll just like decide I want to go home, I'll just go home and not tell anyone. You can't do that in Canada.
No.
Because you have to take a taxi and you can't split cab fare.
No, a lot of the time it was like, right, if I pay for the taxi there, you'll pay for it back, and then you really had to be on the same page of when you were leaving with your friend. And also obviously because not a lot of the time people live near each other, so you'd have to maybe drop someone off somewhere and then travel the rest of the way on your own. And
shit.
Yeah. And then sometimes as well, if you were really drunk, the taxi drivers or Uber drivers are really sneaky, and they tried to take you the long way home so that the fare was higher, so you had to be like lucid enough to be on it. To be like, no, take the main highway please, what are you doing?
The one time I took a taxi in Canada was on my 18th birthday, and you and Corey, who was on the Apocalypse episode, got me so drunk. And literally the clubs was like maybe a 15, not that, because we didn't go to a club, we went to a restaurant that obviously had a bar and we were drinking there. And I could not walk, so I had to take a taxi, and it was literally like a 15-20 minute walk. And so that would be what, like $7 maybe, because it's such a short distance. Charged me $20, and I was so drunk that I was like, that's fine. It was the first taxi I'd ever taken.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Oh my god.
that's expensive, but what are you
And
going to
like,
do?
neither myself or Corey were with her because Corey decided to go home because he was living separately at the time, and I actually was like,
You went to a house party.
yeah, Jen tapped out early. I thought, well,
I didn't tap out. You left. It was someone's birthday.
Yeah, it
I'm
was
still
someone's birthday,
pissed.
but you were also very drunk, and I was like, well, you're signing out for the night, I can tell, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to this house party.
Oh my God.
And yeah, I actually got myself an Uber that night, not far away from my house, and it did cost me about $12, and it cost $20 to go less of a distance.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm so upset. That was my birthday money as well. It's really sad.
That's insane.
But like, I feel like here that would never happen. So when I was taking my friends home, went in Groningen, and they had to take a taxi because they lived way down south, like in Heron.
Oh yeah.
So we had to take a taxi. It's like a 20-minute drive even. And basically we got there and I said to the taxi driver, I was like, can you just like get me to the centre? Like I don't even want to go to my house because that's just going to be too expensive. And I'll just walk, like even drop me like right outside the centre. I got you, whatever. And they were like, oh no, it's fine. Like I'll just drive you to your house. Like don't worry about it. I'll turn off the meter.
Oh
I
shit,
was like,
that's so nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so kind.
Still cost me an arm and a leg. But...
Yeah, well, you see, that's the thing though. Like you won't get like ripped off here. You won't get scammed. Definitely, you will not get scammed by taxi drivers here. But that's because they make so much money anyways. They don't have to scam you.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the prices are so high just naturally, just how they are here because it's such a. It's actually a very kind of. It's like a very niche kind of business here, surprisingly, because everybody usually has some way of getting home.
Yeah.
Cycling, walking, something like that.
It's only really if you're like you got to take suitcases or like luggage or stuff to somewhere that you really use it, or like if you have a friend visiting whatever and they're in Hod or something like that. But usually you'll just cycle or just walk home.
Yeah.
So they have to make. I do get it why it's more expensive because they have to. Otherwise, like they probably don't get as many customers as in other countries.
And they're all Teslas. Like all the Ubers here are Teslas.
I mean,
it's
I do
so
love it
weird.
though.
I love a good Tesla.
Like you see, that's the thing. Why I'm also like I don't mind paying this much. You know?
Like
I'll take
luxury.
it, dude.
Elon Musk is in the car with me.
That's how it feels, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
kind of weird. Dude.
I
It's
actually
so
feel
weird.
like really bad for the new internationals though now. Like there's no nightlife and the city's
that's crazy.
so small, and all the internationals, when you move here, you live in small rooms. So I know so many people who haven't actually met anyone yet.
It's crazy. Oh,
And
that's
they're
so
like
sad.
struggling. I feel really bad.
We got very lucky because we lived in a student house when we first moved here.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our friends, our initial friends, were from there and then from uni as well. Mm-hmm. But you just went straight to a house, didn't you? You didn't live in a student house.
I didn't live in a student house because like the thing is I was like before I moved here I was really adamant about having like because I really need my like own private kind of space. So I was like, man, I really don't want to like. And also I also figured because like the idea was that if my mom or like my family or friends would want to come visit, they can just stay at my place. And it's kind of and that way we don't have to pay for hotels, etc.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get like a studio that wasn't really that much more expensive than like a normal place.
I think housing's so expensive here though.
It's insane, though. It's insane.
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
like it's all right compared to like Amsterdam or like
London.
or like London. Like it's okay compared to those places, but there's just such a shortage of like affordable housing in Groningen.
Yeah, especially for students.
Especially for students.
International students.
Especially for international students, especially because a lot of houses don't even want international students.
Yeah.
They specifically say Dutch
No
people only,
internationals.
which is crazy.
They
to
always
me.
go,
I
no
don't get that.
internationals, sorry. And I'm like, don't even apologise because at this moment I'm just sick of hearing it. So like your
Yeah.
apology means nothing to me.
But I'm doing a project on it for school, and like every other country has policies that allow internationals to get like first choice. Like what's that word called? What's that word? Like they get their
Priority?
Priority.
Yeah.
And here there's no policies at all. There's nothing. The government doesn't do anything to help it. The university isn't allowed to have on-site accommodation, like campus housing, like many other countries that do. They literally, it's not in their budget or so. It's
I remember a couple of
very
years ago, I
strange.
think it was 2018, there were actually students who were sleeping on railways and stuff here.
Yeah.
On railways, and I think they were camping outside of the UB as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Like,
actually still
fucking crazy.
happens. Thing is, apparently, what I've heard from a friend who had to do it is they had to pay to camp, and then they got moved to this sort of like area where they set it up for kind of like a refugee sort of thing.
Yeah, it literally was.
But then when you
crazy.
move out, you have to pay €200 for the use of the facilities for the past however long. So
That's
it's kind of like you're
absolutely
renting
ridiculous.
€200 for a campsite, and you're in a tent in the summer. And sometimes the weather can turn really early here, and they're freezing cold by September.
And if it's raining, and it can rain like crazy here,
Yeah.
dude. And
I mean,
storms.
it's snowing today.
Yeah. I mean, it's
It's
yeah,
literally a
insane.
tent with like army beds
Yeah.
in it.
And they have to figure out like Wi-Fi so that they can do their schooling, all that other stuff. So I know this year it's been a lot different with COVID, so not that many people have come in, so I don't think they've had to use it this year. But I know previous years it was a really big problem.
Yeah.
People were desperate to just wash their clothes. They would ask. I remember when we first moved into the student house, they'd be like, can you let me in and I can use the washing machines because I haven't been able to wash my clothes because I live in a tent site.
Insane.
To
dude.
be fair, with the laundry machines at our student house,
They weren't doing much.
you shouldn't even bother. Like, it would turn all your clothes grey, it would shrink them, it was never fully
So how do you wash
clean.
your clothes then? You just like a sink, just a sink. And
No,
some
well,
soap.
but no, because even the toilets were like general
Shared.
So you literally only had a bedroom.
So what did you do?
Well, you just dealt with it. Bought new clothes.
That's all right.
Literally, because you just have to be like, this is crap. And most of them were broken, or like people would leave their shit in there, so you couldn't move
But
it.
surely you washed it somehow, though.
Yeah, of course, we used the laundry machines.
Oh,
like, we
yeah.
didn't leave it, but it meant you had to use extra detergent and like soap just so it smells.
It meant if you bought like white towels, you weren't having white towels after the
They were
first
gonna
wash.
be
They'd be
grey
like
towels.
grey towels.
Also, the
So weird.
showers were shared. Oh,
Yeah.
and there was a little scandal that there was someone who was like shitting in the shower.
What? Why?
And we would get emails frequently from the housing manager being like, "Stop shitting in the
But
shower."
okay, isn't that crazy though? So you probably knew a lot of the people at that student house, right? You
There was
probably talked
over
to a lot.
200 people in that.
But I'm
Yeah.
sure you knew a decent amount
Yeah.
of them, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy to think that potentially someone you knew was shitting in
Was
your
a
shower?
secret shitter.
Isn't
It
that
was
fucking
me all
crazy?
along. I
Time for
hold up the
confessions.
mirror to myself.
Turns out this is a confessions episode.
Yeah, but I think uni accommodation is in general worldwide is actually no. I was gonna say worldwide is generally quite shit, but in America it's
It's very well done in America, isn't it?
It's
That's what
nicer
I've heard.
amenities.
At least that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's nicer amenities. However, you do usually share a bedroom,
And there's a lot
which
of
is
hidden fees.
insane.
Oh, fuck
I
that.
like saw online that someone since COVID, they the university had transformed some dorms to help with COVID isolation. So then the regular dorms they didn't have enough of. So then people were living in like the sort of like living lounge area sort of thing, and they converted it into like a shared bunk room. And then eventually they did get their own dorms, but they had to then pay fees for like using the dorm room. But I'm like, that's just so American. Like you pay hidden
Yeah.
fees for everything.
Oh man, and that's really a great way to fight COVID is to have everyone in one room.
Exactly, because COVID doesn't
Genius.
exist.
Brilliant.
I'm just picturing they hang curtains
Yeah,
between
yeah.
people, and they're like, "This
Yeah.
is good."
This is sanitary, guys. There you go. No COVID here.
Welcome to the university.
There ain't no COVID in this university. Nah, dude.
Stay out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mentioned it briefly, I think, in an earlier episode, but I feel really bad for all the people who are moving here now. I think you also mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, like a lot of, and I was actually really surprised by this, but like a lot of people in my master's, they moved here. I mentioned it in a previous episode, but a lot of them moved here specifically to do the master's, which is like,
That's only a year.
And actually, a lot of them are considering quitting now and stopping. And I don't blame them because like who knows how long this shit's gonna
It's
go
so
on
hard,
for, right?
yeah.
It's like.
Like, how do you even meet people?
Well, that's the thing. So I actually, I actually had to do a project and I actually wrote about it. I have a blog, by the way, but I
We'll
wrote about
link it.
Yeah,
I
you can
wrote
plug it
about
for
it
sure.
on there, and we came up with some research for it. And it turns out so many people are so discouraged by it. There's first years that are just literally they went home for Christmas and haven't come back since, and they're doing everything remotely, and they're trying to have conversations in those like 200 plus people lectures,
Yeah.
and it's just really awkward and no one's talking, and like some people were saying they hadn't spoken to like someone else besides their immediate roommates in like 3 months or something.
It's such a bad quality of education as well. Because half the time the Wi-Fi doesn't work, or they mute themselves, or people don't unmute themselves, and it's like... I was giving a presentation in my class the other day, and someone didn't have their microphone muted, and it was like echoing. I was trying to concentrate, and I was like, eventually I was just so frustrated. I was like,
mute your mic.
I was like, whoever's microphone is that, could you please mute it? It sounded like a proper Karen.
It's like, these like Zoom or Blackboard kind of things are so rough. And like the thing is that also because everything is on text, you also get these like weird like little drama situations as well, like this like these weird little fights and stuff.
So many
it's
miscommunications.
Like, there's so many miscommunications. It's so bad.
Yeah, and
like,
also people have nothing else to do. People have nothing else to do, so they're just arguing for the sake of arguing. They're like, I just want some interaction. So yeah, it's driving me a bit insane. But I think hopefully it might get better this year. She says hopefully.
It won't matter to me. I'm graduating in like a few weeks.
And you're probably moving.
And I'm probably moving,
But like, I wonder how that's going to be for you, though.
I'm not going to get a graduation. They're literally just going to send me a PDF and go, well done. In Dutch, probably.
I didn't get a PDF. Fuck, I would love a PDF. You do get like a physical thing.
Scott didn't get his. Our friend Scott, he graduated at the same time as Peter. He never got his. And they were like, yeah, you have to come pick it up because you didn't accept it or whatever.
Yeah, I have to go pick it up from the office. Why not? Dude.
Why haven't you?
I have. I picked it up. I picked it up like 4 months ago, dude.
Right, okay.
Fuck, I don't want it to sit there and get lost or something. I don't know, man. Shit.
Your whole 4 years just goes down the drain because you can't prove you actually graduated.
I'm not going to risk that. Shit.
Imagine how many like old diplomas are just sat there because people haven't picked them up. But also imagine people who graduated expecting to come back at the end of the summer and pick up their diploma, and now they can't because flights are closed. Like borders are closed, so they can't come back and get it. So they just are like, I have a degree, but I don't have a degree.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess it's fair enough if you're living overseas or like pretty far away, and obviously it's like, what am I gonna fucking go back just to pick it up? Like, I'll wait until things get better, or
surely,
get them to like DHL that shit.
Yeah, surely they can mail it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd make such a fuss out of
I don't think the uni would put in the money for that.
That's a lot of effort, dude. That's a lot of effort.
My uni would. They sent me a postcards the other day encouraging me to continue studying, and they've sent me nice little deck of cards and a little love our students letter thing. Like,
so Beth goes to...
I don't get shit.
No.
Fuck.
You go to the
University of Applied Sciences here.
Yeah, so it's closer to a what's it called?
Well, it's kind of
like a scientific college thing.
Yeah.
But it's a university still.
Nicole also goes there, by the way.
Yeah.
And then
she'll be getting a letter with the postcards.
I think she already got it.
Yeah. It's lovely.
And then Peter and I go to the city university, University of Groningen.
Like the research university.
Which is I think more expensive, it's higher praised, and yet we don't get shit.
Yeah.
We get nothing.
Our university is sorry you're dealing with the pandemic. Hope you're okay, hon. It's I'm not. I'm dying.
They don't give a fuck. Like they put out these little notifications and stuff, and that's about it. I mean, fuck.
Yeah. Our school's quite good. They offered some course, not courses, but time slots where you can sign up with. They had a long list of teachers that volunteered their time, and you can do a walk and talk. So you can talk about things, because a lot of students obviously feeling isolated. So you can go in and just have some sort of human interaction. It could just be a coffee. It could be talking about anything. And I was like, oh, that's really nice, And then they sent out the postcards.
That'd be quite weird, though. Is that just me?
Well,
it might be a bit awkward, but
the thing is, maybe for you guys, because you guys don't really know your teachers, but we do. They teach. We have a class, and our teachers teach us every year.
Yeah.
So we kind of actually know them. I know a bit about them.
Wouldn't it just be a bit weird if you just go for a walk with your teacher, though? I don't think I'd do that.
I think
even my favourite teachers, I don't think I'd be like, do you fancy going for a coffee and a walk?
Yeah. I think it's maybe more to do with if you're having struggles being on your own, you're dealing with anxiety, you can talk to someone about it, because...
But still, that's only a teacher.
I think it's just to offer it, because like I said, so many new internationals, they really don't have anyone, so many people. When I reached out to them for my research, for my article and stuff, they were jumping at it just to talk to me. I felt so bad because they really haven't talked to anyone.
No, I mean, it's like, I think for a lot of people who move here, they're more so relying on their friends back home, because obviously you can't really, you can't have that physical connection here of people and talk to them and hang out or whatever, you know, go for a beer or whatever it is. You can't do that. Man, fuck, I was thinking about it a second ago, like, wouldn't it be so nice to just go to like a cafe and have fucking coffee and like a little cake or something, dude? Oh man.
Even just
sit
like
down,
have
a little
even
coffee.
just to
Watch the world go by.
like sitting here and like having a drink is quite nice. It reminds me of being at a pub, which I like. But it's cheaper. But at the same time, you don't get that same stimulation of seeing other people and interacting with strangers.
Seeing some drunk fuckers walking by and like thinking about what the fuck are they doing tonight, you know what I mean? Fuck.
Yeah. But I miss going to a pub and just watching some live music. Like watching other people and like sort of having a joint experience. I just feel like I'm in my own bubble and everyone else that does walk past me, they're just like background characters and I'm just in my own little life and it's just me. There are no background characters. I am the main character and there is no supporting characters and it's only me. And it's getting very boring.
Yeah, fuck. But I think a lot of these students have to rely on people back home and maintaining kind of friendships overseas. But I think for us, that's kind of been pretty natural to do it. Because I don't know about you guys, but like I talk to a lot of friends from places I used to live before. Over Skype, etc.
I mean, from Canada, I literally probably talked to Hannah, who I've mentioned a million times, and that's probably
Imagine if we get her on the podcast someday, like for some fucking miracle.
She actually wrote me a Christmas card, and it arrived a month and a half later. Thank you, Canadian Post. I literally got it like a few days ago, and I was like, shit, it's not even Christmas anymore, and she sent it at the end of November. But anyway, so she was like, oh, if you ever want me on the podcast, just FaceTime me and she'll be on it. So that's something maybe to look forward to.
Maybe we'll have a call-in.
But and then in England, like I have one friend who I maybe talk to. But I think because we are used to moving so much that we're so used to leaving friends behind and be like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally always found it like we moved so often. So in England itself, we moved like from the south to the north and everything. And then when we moved to Canada, I was 12, Jen was 10. And then when we moved from Canada to LA with our parents, that was like, I was 20 and 18. You had just turned 18. And then we moved here. So like we've moved around so much that like, honestly, I find it hard to like maintain relationships that are like long term. And the relationships I do have, I value like a lot, but I still find it really hard to reach out to them. Like I find it hard, if you're not immediately around me, I find it hard to like actually talk and like sort of make the time.
It's because eventually you don't have any shared experiences anymore. Like you're not in the same country, so you're not like, oh, this teacher, this class, whatever, or like, oh, the weather, this news, something going on locally. So it's harder. You end up missing pieces of their life, and then it's harder to be like, oh, catch me up on what you've been doing. It's like, oh, is that really important? Like that I went on a date with like one guy like 2 weeks ago, and then you end up losing lots of different pieces of that person's life, and you end up creating that distance between you.
Yeah. I mean, one of my friends, like so much so, like I missed out on, not like really missed out, but I did. I missed out kind of like on little points. And then the other day I saw on Facebook, my friend, because we're getting to the age I am, she got engaged. And I was like, oh my God, I was so
crazy.
I was so close to you before, and I've never met this guy. I don't really know anything about him.
It's crazy.
I try and reach out, but it's just like she's got so much going on, and I was never really part of it for the last like however many years. So it's like it feels weird. Like obviously there's still that friendliness and kindness to each other, but we're not. It's more like we've reverted to acquaintances and friends.
Yeah, that's the worst part, isn't it, about friends? Because I've also traveled around. I've lived in plenty of places as well, and it's like, especially, it's also to do with age. I think age definitely also plays a big part of it. But it's like when I moved here, and also obviously kind of entered my early adulthood stage here as well. It's like there are so many friends who like I was quite close with back in the day, and it's like, fuck, I really don't know where you've even been the last couple of years. Like, what have you even been doing? Like, what, like, who even are you now? It's like they're completely different people because they probably don't know what I'm like anymore.
Yeah, no.
I mean, even
I
the
always
last
wonder
4
if
years.
I've changed a lot. Like when I talk to people in Canada or something, I'm like, have I changed? I feel like I've changed since I moved here because I've just become more of an adult, like living on your own now and being like a lot more self-sufficient. But in general, like I just don't really speak to those people.
Yeah. I feel like I've definitely changed. Like I have definitely, like, that's why I find it hard actually, I think, as well, to maintain the relationships, because I even noticed, like, when my friend came to visit, I loved it, had so much fun with her, but I did notice, like, I was the different person. Like, she felt so familiar to me, but I just felt like that wasn't reciprocated by her because I felt so different.
Yeah.
Because I'm obviously, like, because we're half, like, I say we're half English because we did move to Canada when, like, halfway through my life. So even though genetically we are, but I feel like I'm half English, half international, because I wouldn't even say I'm Canadian.
That's so interesting because I never tell people that I'm Canadian at all.
I don't think I'm Canadian. I would say I'm more like half English, half international. Like I don't directly identify with anything else, but it's just because I've come here and I'm around so much more like English, European culture that I feel like that side of me has been brought out a lot more, but I don't get it still. I was like talking to an English person the other day and there was just little things that like I just didn't get. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I was literally going to mention the same thing. The thing is, I left South Africa when I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
So, like, I never really lived in South Africa. Sure, I went to visit there often. I used to go once or twice a year, you know, for like a month or so. But I never lived there. So it's like there's so much of it that's like I'm South African, but at the same time, it's also like, I'm exactly like
there's a disconnect from that culture.
And like I can't say I grew up in Malaysia and the UAE, but I can't say that I'm like Malaysian, and I can't say that I'm from the Emirates either. So exactly, it's like I'm like a South African international with like Dutch family. It's super weird. Like I really don't have that strong of like a cultural identity, which is really weird. And I think that's really endemic to international people like us who move around so often and don't grow up really where they're from.
Where did you specifically move to, in like what age?
So when I was 2, I moved out of South Africa and I moved to the United Arab Emirates, and I lived nearby Dubai. I lived there for 7 to 8 years. I can't remember exactly anymore. And then I moved from there to Malaysia, where I lived in Kuala Lumpur.
So you're about 10 when you moved to Malaysia then as well?
I was like 10, 11-ish, something like that.
So like the same age that
we moved to Canada, so
precisely. And then I moved to Malaysia and I lived there until I was 18, until I was 18 and I moved here. So it's like
weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
it's like it's so weird because I like a lot of South African stuff I do get, obviously, you know. A lot of the culture I am integrated into. I speak Afrikaans. I can speak Afrikaans to my family. You know, there's still the braai culture. There's like there's a lot of stuff I do get, but there's other stuff that's like, you know, especially when I talk to my friends from South Africa, I'm like, fuck, man, it's like, it's so hard to relate to a lot of, you know, what you grew up with, not even grew up with, but what you've been integrated with. Interestingly, I have a friend who used to live with me in the UAE until he was about 10, 11, and then he moved back to South Africa.
Okay. And
it's so weird to see how, even though we were kind of the same for the most part, I think he stayed a bit more in South Africa before then he moved there, and it's like he's so much more culturally South African than I am. Even though, like, there again, I still have a lot of aspects of it, but it's like, I don't know, it's super weird.
Yeah,
it's really strange.
Yeah. No, I always feel like when people ask me where I'm from, I usually just say England because I have an English accent, so it's easier. And also all our family is from England, like as far back as you can go. We don't have like people living in, like, you have Dutch family. We don't have like anything like that in any other part of the world. And so it's kind of weird when I'm like, oh, but I also lived in Canada for 8 years, and then people automatically like, oh, so you're Canadian, like you're American, and then they're like, oh, Trump, and I'm like, I'm not American. Like it's and I don't want to tell people, but at the same time, like, I don't feel like I understand all the Canadian customs and everything like that because I didn't grow up there. I was 10. I already had a lot of my personality built, and I still remembered stuff from my family and how we did things traditionally. And then in England, though, there's still like, I don't know the areas of where all my friends are from, and things like politically as well and news-wise.
Yeah.
It's like I have no idea. So I'm like, the fuck is going on?
same.
What do I know?
Yeah. No, I feel the same. Like, it's weird because I was saying earlier to a friend, I was like, I thought my accent was a lot more English since I've moved back here. I know, like, okay, so when I was growing up, before we moved to Canada, my accent was very, very English. I listened to some of the videos back and I'm like, very posh English.
England.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, wow.
My name is Bethany Hobson.
We said grass and bath.
Bath. Like, we were like
I'm
proper
going
southern.
to have a bath.
Literally, I'd be like, Mummy, can I go have a bath?
Mummy, can I go play outside?
Oh,
Like,
apple.
nightmare. And then when we moved to Canada, I knew I adopted a Canadian accent, but I listened back to some of the videos and I'm like, wow, I did not sound English at all. I sounded like Canadian, and then like if you really knew a Canadian accent, you'd be like, oh, there's a little summit there, like a little spice, but like you'd think it's Canadian. And then now I'm back here, I thought I adopted the English accent a lot more, but then I heard my voice back the other day and I was just like, why do I sound so different from what I hear in my head? Like when I'm speaking now, I hear a certain accent, but then when I hear the audio back, it sounds literally like a foreign person is speaking. Like I don't know what my accent is. So when people say, where are you from? I just go England, and they go, yeah. But if I tell an English person I'm from England, they're like, where? Like they look at me so confused. Like I don't get it.
Because we lived in the north and south. We lived in the south for longer than the north, but all our family's northern, so we have
that makes it even more complicated.
a mixed accent, and we pronounce things like even when we were living in Milton Keynes in the south, our parents are northern, so they would say like bath and maths and stuff like that, and we'd have a mix. And I remember our parents literally being like, would you say grass or grass? And I was like, grass. And so they would say bath or bath? I'm like, bath. Bath. Like it was like a weird mix.
Yeah, I have that too a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's super weird. It's also, whenever I visit South Africa, I don't feel like I'm visiting home. I feel like I'm visiting like a foreign country, which is the weirdest shit ever, because I have a South African passport. And
That's
like,
interesting.
it's technically my home country, but it's like, I go there and it's like, well, I'm just like a visitor, you know, because I'm so unaccustomed to so much of what it's like to live there.
I feel like
so
when I go to England and I go to restaurants and stuff, I'm like, they're gonna know that I'm not English.
Exactly.
I'm an
That's
imposter.
something like that, right? That's exactly, yeah.
And I feel like I have to put on a stronger northern accent when I go up north, because, well, first of all, in England there's that whole like, I hate southerners and I hate northerners, and there's like a weird like
rivalry.
And so when I go to restaurants, I'm like, you're right, can I get a coffee please?
Can I get a coffee?
I go so northern because I'm like, I don't want them to find out I'm not northern.
Oh, that's so funny.
If I was to ask a question, I want to know everyone's answer. So
Bath.
where would you say you are from? Where's your home? Like, where do you feel that?
I mean, like where I'm from, I would still say South Africa, because I do, if I were to think about what the majority of like my identity is, I'll still say Afrikaans, like South African, but it also it's getting mixed a bit more with Dutch now as well, you know, because I've been integrating a lot here as well, and I do have Dutch family. I've always had quite a strong connection with the Netherlands, I feel like, because my dad was half Dutch / Dutch, kind of weird. And that's also a big reason why I wanted to move here. But I think about home. Yeah. That's complicated. That's a tough one.
I think when I think of home, I think of where I'm currently living.
That's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
And then, so people are like, oh, like, where's your home? Where are you visiting from? And I'm like, the Netherlands. And like, you sound very English.
Exactly. Either that or Malaysia maybe, but it's really complicated.
But usually I just say England, because I can't be bothered like, we lived in England and then we moved to Canada and then America and now we are
here. It's so difficult to explain it a lot of the time. Like I tried explaining my like situation to kind of like explain where I'm from, and like usually it's easy to just say, oh, it's African. Oh, but it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But I would say Malaysia or here. I usually say here, I feel like. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Oh God. Well, for me, it's difficult because unlike Jen, she says I'm from the Netherlands. I don't like. She says home is like the Netherlands. I don't really say that because, well, as mentioned earlier, I have wanted to get out of the city for a little while and that's why I've never felt really particularly attached to the city. So it's hard to be attached to the Netherlands in general because the city is kind of all I really know. And also because originally I wasn't really planning on staying in the Netherlands, but since Brexit, I'm like, take advantage of my nice visa that they've given me, and I can work here for a few years without any repercussions. And I think I might do that, but it will be down in Amsterdam. I think maybe if I move down there and it's got a bit more of an international culture, a bigger city, then I might be more identified with here. But for now, I just kind of say like England, and then I add the caveat every time, like depending on who it is. If it's just someone random, I go, oh, England, just to kind of shut the conversation down. But if it's someone I'm like kind of acquainted with, I'll go, oh, England, but I lived in Canada for a while as well, so that's why my accent's messed up. Yeah. And that's why I like add that caveat, and then they go, oh, okay, and then that allows them to ask questions, and then I'll explain it. But other than that, I just say that because I know I don't sound properly English, and I also sometimes people say things about England that I'm like, haha, yeah, and I have actually no clue. No clue.
Yeah.
Just like no cultural references at all.
No. Or areas specifically, my geography is really bad of England, and I'm like, I don't know where that is, and I'm just like, oh yeah. I've never personally been, but I've heard it's great. That's like my go-to, because I'm like, I don't know.
That's the thing, because in England, everyone knows like where all the counties are and where all the cities are, and they're like, oh, I'm from Surrey, and I'm like, I could not even tell you if that's north or south.
Yeah, I
don't know.
I think I could, but I'm not going to put it on here because I'm really unsure. Like,
I don't know.
I'm not confident.
Where Cornwall is. It's that little fuck off bit at the bottom.
The nice bit.
But yeah, I have the same thing with South Africa. The people, like, even earlier today, ironically, I was calling someone on Skype. I was talking to a friend, we were playing some games, and he invited his friend who was born not in South Africa, but in an island just off the coast. And he was like, oh yeah, have you heard of this? And I'm like, no. I absolutely no fucking idea what you're talking about. So yeah, I definitely have that as well. But also, like, I don't really sound that South African. It's only certain words really where you can hear it. And sometimes, after I've been speaking Afrikaans to someone, then I sound more South African when I speak English.
When I first met you, I thought you were American.
Yeah, I think that's what most people say.
I still can't identify what your accent's on. Like, I would not have said South African.
It's just international.
It's so generic.
It's so mixed between, like, I've had people ask me if I'm American, if I'm English. I've had that one as well, actually. Canadian as well, actually.
Oh, Canadian.
I've had Canadian as well. But yeah, South African is the last thing that they guess, basically. And you can only really hear it, like, when I say, like, yeah instead of yes and stuff like that, or on certain phrases and things that are very South African, but that's about it.
Do you think you'll stay here?
For a couple of years, maybe, but yeah, not really in the long term.
Do you think you'll continue to be international, like go see other places? Or do you think you'll go back to where one of the places you've already been?
No, I definitely won't go back to somewhere where I've already lived. I mean, I definitely don't want to live in South Africa anymore because that's a disaster.
You want to go to America, don't you?
Yeah, I want to move to America. That's the dream, but that's we'll see if that happens. I mean, that's
like
really
where?
Tough. Like, I was thinking.
Someone doesn't listen to the podcast.
Listen in.
Can't have it memorized.
But it's either New York or LA. I went to New York one time, and it was, man, it blew my mind. I think it was my first time in America, and I didn't really have an opinion on what I was expecting, before I went there, and then I went to New York, and it was just like, what the fuck, this is incredible. Like, it absolutely blew my mind of what I was expecting. My I think it's also because my expectations were so, like, neutral. And also I'm doing journalism, and I like writing and like communication studies and stuff like that, so that's really something that I'm interested in. New York is the place to be for that kind of stuff, so. But if not, aside from that, I really want to see LA for myself. I've never been there, so I really want to see it first for myself before I really settle on an opinion on it.
But, I get the appeal. I get the appeal because I always initially was like, I'm not going back to America. Like, I don't want to be in North America again. That's why I came to study here in Europe. But now, like, my parents live in LA, and I haven't really experienced much of it because I've not ever done anything there. I was always just living at my parents' house there. Like, I didn't do school, I didn't do anything like that. But I just think it's stunning, and like the weather's amazing. I do like being able to drive. I miss driving. Cycling here in the cold today when it was snowing, I really missed my car.
But also in California, it takes you 40 minutes to drive anywhere.
But you have the time. I feel like it's a lot more laid back in California. You kind of just like, I'll show up.
I think it's because I don't have a license and I don't have any desire to drive. So I'm like,
Ever? Never.
I'm terrified of driving. I have nightmares of me getting in a car and driving and just crashing.
I used to be super anxious about it. I did my driving license here, ironically. I actually have a Dutch driver's license.
Yeah,
I
didn't know that.
I do have. I've got a Dutch driver's license.
Like a full one?
Full driver's license,
It's so expensive.
Was
here
it
as
easy
well,
to
though.
take it?
No.
Oh.
It was, you see, the thing is that driving in the Netherlands is so hard. It's so fucking
All the
difficult.
bikes
and
everywhere.
it made me so anxious. And also, it's so specific, all the little things. It's like you're driving through a fucking maze and you have to, like, figure out all the little signs. And, like, there's so much shit. Especially, like, I didn't grow up here either.
Yeah.
So I was never integrated into, like, the traffic system here at all. I had to learn everything from scratch.
Yeah.
You know?
Mate,
so
even when we drive in England, I'm like, you're on the wrong side of the
that
road.
looks crazy,
I
too.
get so tense. I'm like, this isn't right.
Yeah, but yeah, at first, like for the first I want to say 3 months, every time right before a driving lesson, I would get so much anxiety. And even the night before, I'd be like, oh my god, I have to drive tomorrow. I'm so scared. Like
I don't like it. I just don't want to drive. I'm terrified, especially because a few times we've gone like go-karting and bumper cars. I don't like going fast.
yeah, really.
Jen's been rubbish.
I can't go too fast on a bike because I freak out. Like when people are like, "Oh, a hill, fuck yeah, I'm just gonna go full speed." I'm like, I don't know why, but there's something inside of me that's
It's
just
probably
like
a
no
pretty
speed.
good thought, to be honest. I
No
mean,
speed.
honestly, it sounds like a survival instinct.
Yeah.
I
It
do
makes
not
sense.
have a need for speed.
It's weird with the driver's license though, because I obviously got my driver's license in Canada because we were there for 8.5 years, and I drove over there no problem. And then I moved to the UK just before we moved here for a couple months, and I transferred my driver's license over. So I have a British driver's license, and I've never driven on that side of the road. And I'm absolutely petrified if I ever have to be there to drive on that side of the road, because I've never done it, and the roads are so small and winding, and I'm like, oh my god. But
That's what
other
it's
than
like
that, I
here
love
too.
driving.
Like
yeah.
the roads are so fucking narrow here.
And you
it's
have
so-
the addition of bikes
And it's
flying
so
out
sketchy
nowhere.
because the roads are so narrow. You have these motherfuckers who slide past, and you're like, "Fuck! I don't want to tilt a bit to the right and whack them off the bike or something." I'm fucked. And like, really, they don't fuck around here. First day you're doing your license here, like the first lesson, I was already driving in the fucking street.
What
my
the
God.
fuck?
I thought they were gonna take me around like a little circuit or something, give me some testing. No,
In
they're
a
just
car
like,
park.
like the driving instructor. There's like, okay, you handle the gas, I'll just do the gear shifts for you. And I'm like,
What?
what? I'm like, wait, what? Am I gonna be driving? And I was like, yeah. Wait, what? I have never done this before. What are you talking about? It's crazy.
You'd think they'd take you to a car park
Yeah, that's what I
first
thought. That's what I
and
thought.
like do parking and
Well,
like
like,
general stopping
we
and starting.
drove to a car park, and then we drove out and around the city, and then we went home.
God.
And then when I dropped
my
myself
gosh.
off, and like it is like it's really scary the first couple times. What I can say though is that it really did help me learn how to do it properly though.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking terrifying.
Throw you in
Yeah.
the deep end.
Like I can't tell
Sink
you.
or swim.
Like dude, I would get so anxious on that I just couldn't do it. I remember one time telling Nico, like, you gotta go tell him that I can't do it, because I can't tell him to his face. I was so anxious about it. It drove me crazy. It was so scary.
I just have
hated it.
no desire. I don't like driving. I don't even particularly like being in a car. Like being in a car with other people scares me. I don't know where I've got this from. You know what I think it is, actually? I've just thought of this now. Our parents are not the best drivers.
Deep-seated drama coming out here.
I'd just go into a full therapy session. Our
Welcome to
parents.
This could be a therapy.
This could be a therapy session.
Our parents, they're not the best drivers. Mum doesn't pay attention enough, and our dad goes too fucking fast. Like, our mum has literally gone through red lights, like, more times than I can count.
Oh my God.
And then my dad just goes like, I don't need to indicate, they should just know when I'm going. And I'm like, Nigel, oh God. Like, and we've been in car accidents with them a couple times, I think, when we were younger.
Really?
Not
I've never
not
had
bad
that.
ones.
Yeah, of
like
course.
mind you, let's
No,
just
like,
not
You guys
obviously-
look alright. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys
Let's not
look
make
alright.
it sound like life threatening.
My arms like backwards. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
I'm alright, mate.
No,
Yeah, right,
I
you
get
know.
it. Thing is, my dad taught me how to drive. So, but with me, he was so cautious, and I was in a little minivan, big car. I said little, a big minivan. Like it's a big
still a
car,
van.
right?
It's still a
So,
van.
yeah.
a Windstar.
It was a Windstar, so we nicknamed it Winnie. And Winnie and I had some adventures. I learned how to drive in him, and my dad took me around the car park for like 3 sessions before he'd let me leave the car park, which in hindsight, I was like, it's a good idea, but at the time I was like, come on, don't you trust me? I'm great. And then one time he was like, okay, and mind you, this is an automatic, and this is like the second time I've been in the car, but he was like, okay, ease into this car, like parking spot, okay, now stop, brake, and I accidentally got the brake and the gas confused.
Oh,
and I like when I saw him, it did not bode well. Dad was so mad. He was he was like, are you kidding? Because like there was like a little cement block at the front. But obviously I'm going slow into the car spot. But I would like to put a disclaimer out there. I'm a good driver now. In the US, I'm a good driver. In Canada, I'm a good driver. On that side of the road, big lanes, cruising, all good.
Our dad in general is a very calm man. You never see him raise his voice. Maybe on a few occasions we've seen him raise his voice. Yeah. But I can practically, when he panics, he just like...
He was like slamming the brake for me on his side of the car. Like there's no brake there, but he was hitting the floor.
Like, brake.
Like, we were just lucky we were going slowly.
The rest of it all.
But on my own, I love driving. I do. I think it's very therapeutic. Blast the music, karaoke.
Ironically, one of the most chill driving sessions
Are you me?
apparently so, I've ever had was actually during my driving exam. For like in term, because like when you're driving with an instructor, right? It's like, okay, turn right here, and it's like instant. You have to react to when he says it. But during the exam, I had a little GPS thing, dude. I could see for myself exactly.
That's really nice.
And I was just fucking chilling. And like, okay, there were a couple of. I thought I failed the exam actually because I messed up the parking slightly, like ever so slightly. And when I went onto the highway, someone cut me off, and I was like, "Oh my god! I hope he doesn't think that's my fault, because it's not."
Yeah.
I was going perfectly. Sorry, it wasn't highway, but it was like it's called the ring, and it's like the 80 zone.
It's
basically.
like the motorway that like
kind
goes
of
around the
precisely.
city.
Yeah. And it's like, and I was like, listen, all right, I was going the exact speed I have to go. Mm-hmm. It's not my fault. She should have compensated for me coming onto the road as well, and she didn't. He was like, yeah, I know, don't worry, it's not your fault. And I was like, oh,
I feel like they're very lenient here as well.
Well, they are, but they also aren't. Like they're more lenient if you make like a slight parking mistake. They're like, okay, whatever, you're just a new driver, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
But if you do something dangerous, then they're like instantly no.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. I was focusing way more on like, okay, make sure that you don't like
kill someone,
like cut anyone off on a pedestrian crossing, because that's going to be an instant fail, and you're done.
Yeah.
And make sure you obey lights and the rules and everything. Do not put yourself in any dangerous situation. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just make sure that what you're doing is according to the rules for the most part.
When I see the learners on the road, like the learning drivers, and they're like coming up to a crosswalk, I always like stop first, and I'm like, are you stopping, hun? Like, you better stop. I'm waiting for you.
I'm giving you the chance.
Like, we're all rooting for you here, hun. Like, but one time, like, I stopped and I like made contact with a driver, and he went like, yes.
He's like, thank you.
I was like, gotcha. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, because there's nothing worse than like when I've been in the car with like my parents or like friends or whatever, and then a pedestrian just like is walking, and then suddenly they turn into the road, and you're like, the fuck did you come from?
Early on when I was doing my lessons, I would just completely miss them, and they would just be like, and I'd just be like, sorry about that.
Hi.
My instructor would be like, well, you missed that.
Fail.
You missed that person, you know? That would have been a fail. I'm like, yeah, I know it would have been a fail. You gotta tell me, all right?
It's like, yes, thank you.
I know, dude. Fuck. Oh, it's so stressful. But I mean, I think, it was really trial by fire. But also, it's like I wouldn't have no idea how to drive in South Africa. Like, fuck. That's also left side, by the way, because good old Commonwealth. So. I mean, like, and also, like, I'm sure it's a lot fucking crazier there in terms of people following rules.
Yeah.
I bet people don't give a fuck, but I also don't know. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Very strange. Right. Should we wrap it up?
I reckon so.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Beth. It's been a joy having you.
Do you want to plug your blog?
Okay, it's called skyasays.com. That's my middle name, Skya. Yeah, it's kind of a marketing related blog.
SKYASAYS.
Link in the description.
Yeah, if you have some time, check it out. Let me know what you think. It's a new thing, but it's something that I do on the side, and I enjoy it. So
yeah, and we'll also leave her Instagram in the bio in case you're interested in checking her out. And Make sure you send us some feedback on Instagram. I always forget how this outro goes. Make sure you send us some feedback on Instagram if you have any, and if you have any suggestions, that is always also welcome as well, of anything you want us to talk about. And we will see you next week.
Bye.